AITAH for having no sympathy for my sick husband, which lead to me being called a fucking bish. Me, F41, and my husband, M42, have been together 20 years. We've had our ups and downs over the years and even had couples therapy. We had to stop recently as I'm on maternity leave and had to cut back. Our relationship was always good before we had our first child, F7, but then stress/anxiety got to him and he's changed over these last few years. He's always had a mean, nasty side, nothing physical, and up till our couples counseling he would never apologize for the nasty things he'd say. After arguments we'd always be okay and go back to normal. There's always been tension between us whenever he's gotten ill, nothing serious, just colds, as he says I don't have empathy/sympathy for him and don't seem to care. He'll spend the time in bed or on the sofa and will be off work for the week. I'm rarely ill, however when I do get a cold I just get on with life and look after the household and kids. I'm ill and feel crap, however life doesn't stop and kids have to be looked after, so I push through it. We've recently had a baby, M6 months, so I'm on maternity leave and got ill. I've never been as ill with a cold before, however I also had a fever on and off for a week, so was experiencing headaches, cold sweats, hot flushes, and eventually the doctors gave me antibiotics as they suspected I had a respiratory infection. During my worst week it was half-term for my daughter, so she was home and I also had the baby to look after. My husband had been ill the week before and was still recovering, however he went back to work. He works from home, so is only in the outside office, but he said he'd rather be working than be in the house with the kids, so left me to it. In that week I wouldn't say he checked up on me or offered to get me anything and just kept himself in the office working. Routines were the same and I still put my daughter to bed, and I'd also like to point out I was sleeping on the floor of my daughter's room in a sleeping bag, and did for 2 weeks, as I didn't want to disturb him or the baby who were in our bedroom as I was coughing during the night. This week it seems he's caught what I had. I'm a lot better but still recovering, but from Sunday he's had a fever and is now experiencing the symptoms I had. I asked him if he'd be moving into my daughter's bedroom so my daughter and the baby would sleep in our bedroom, but he refused and said he wanted our bed. So I moved the baby into my daughter's room and the 3 of us slept in there. Over the next couple days he's been constantly in bed. He's expected me to look after the children and also nurse him. The first day he called me up to the bedroom and told me he was so weak he needed me to put paracetamol in his mouth and hold the glass of water to his lips. Later he sent me a message asking me to make him some lunch and to cut it up into bite-sized pieces. I'd had enough by that point and told him I'm sure he was capable of getting out of bed to do this himself. This is where the argument started. He told me I wasn't compassionate and I had a terrible bedside manner. I'm not denying my sympathy for him is low. We've always argued when he's ill, as I've always told him it's just a cold and he needs to just get on with it. The argument escalated the next day when I mentioned the ensuite was disgusting. I intended to clean it. He then started saying again that I don't seem to care about him and that I'd left him upstairs alone and wasn't checking up on him and making sure he was okay. I pointed out the week before he was happy to leave me on my own with the kids while I was ill and didn't check up on me or offer to get me anything. He told me I must have had more energy than him, however it's not that I have more energy, I have Tio look after the kids. He then went off at me shouting and screaming that I was a witch, a cow, a fucking bish, and banging his hands on the worktop. For someone with no energy he seemed to suddenly have a lot of it. This also all happened in front of the baby. Obviously he doesn't understand, but the raised voices would have alarmed him. He later apologized for what he said, but I'm wondering, am I the a-hole for not being sympathetic when he's ill and not being his nursemaid?